Okay, so what we want to do for today in this video is we want to add the final piece to labeling and diagramming a Shakespearean sonnet's form and structure. Now here's what we already know in regards to that. Number one is we know what we now mean by form and structure. What we mean by that is the way the sonnet is physically constructed. We know what rhyme scheme is and how to label it. We use new letters for every new rhyme in a rhyme scheme. We also know what a stanza is. A stanza is a very fancy word for a poetry paragraph. We should know what a quatrain is by now. A quatrain is actually a 4-line stanza or a 4-line grouping. We know what a couplet is from Romeo and Juliet as well as our sonnets. A couplet is a pair of lines, a couple of lines that rhyme back to back. And then we also know what a volta is. And a volta is a twist or a change in the thought process, the emotion, or the tone of a Shakespearean sonnet. So the last thing that we want to piece together today is this really unique word called iambic pentameter. But before we do this, we need to understand a couple of different words first. Now, don't get overwhelmed when you see these, because as we piece together what iambic pentameter is all about, this really becomes easier to understand. But these are the 3 words we have to kind of have prior knowledge of before we get into iambic pentameter. The first word is meter. Now, meter is basically a poetic word that means the scheme of syllables. And what we mean by scheme is the syllable stressed or unstressed? Every word in the English language is stressed some way. So it's either going to have a stress on it or it's going to have an unstressed on it. Even syllables. So a word like water has a stressed and unstressed syllable count. So we'll get to that in just a second. So don't get too overwhelmed about that. The rhythm of a line of poetry refers to how the syllables are stressed or unstressed. So what's the order? Does it go stressed and then unstressed? Or does it go unstressed and then stressed? Or maybe it goes unstressed, unstressed, stressed. So meter is how the syllables are grouped, and rhythm is the pattern of whether they're stressed or unstressed. So we'll also get to that in just a second. Okay? And then our last word, which is right here, is scansion. And scansion is basically diagramming the meter and the rhythm of poetry by dividing the line into pairs of syllables and then marking the locations of the rhythm. So marking the stressed and the unstressed accents. And then also scansion refers to counting the syllables that we've already done. Okay, so here's what I know right now. Most of you are still sitting in front of the computer, scratching your head, thinking to yourself, I have no idea what iambic pentameter means. So when we look at this word, right, we see it and automatically there's some music for dramatic effect. We get overwhelmed. We think to ourselves, oh my gosh, this doesn't make any sense. So let me see if we can break down the word first to see then if it helps us later with scansion and how we label and diagram it. So we're going to move basically from left to right here, and we're going to break down certain parts of the word. The first part I want to break down for you is this part right here. And the word is I am. Basically what the word I am means is I am means pair. So what we're looking at is we're looking at a line of verse that has pairs of syllables. Now, if we think about math class and we think about numbers, a pair equals 2. So an I am is a pair of syllables. The second word I want to break down is this word right here, penta. This is actually a word that has a lot of historical history. It's found in different words like Latin and Greek, and in every language, for lack of better words, penta means 5. So if we go back to geometry and we think about penta, or a building like the Pentagon, a pentameter or a pentagon has 5 sides. So penta simply means 5. So right now we have 2 numbers, 2 and 5. Okay? The last word right here is then the word meter. And basically all meter means, if we go back to our definition, is it means syllable, sorry about the writing, pattern or scheme. Okay? So how are the syllables being arranged in a line of poetry? Okay? So this part here actually gives us our answer. We already know that a line of iambic pentameter is going to have pairs of syllables. So we're going to every time there's 2 syllables, we're going to make it a pair. The pattern, the syllable pattern here, actually is found in this word. So what we're going to see in a line of iambic pentameter is that there are 5 pairs of syllables. So if we do our simple multiplication fact here, what we see is that if we take 2 pairs times 5, what that equals is 10. And as we talked about in our previous video, every line of a Shakespearean sonnet has 10 syllables. But what Shakespeare is doing is he's dividing them into 5 pairs or 5 iambs. So this fancy schmancy word iambic pentameter basically means a syllable pattern of 5 pairs of syllables. So it's really not all that difficult if you think about it, but it still doesn't necessarily answer the question, what exactly is iambic pentameter? So let's take a closer look. Okay. And again, Shakespeare loved to use iambic pentameter in many of his sonnets and also in his plays. Okay, so let's review. Iambic means pair, which is 2. Penta means 5. The meter means the syllable pattern. So 2 times 5 equals 10. Okay? Iambic pentameter just means lines of poetry that can be divided into 5 pairs. Okay? But now we introduce this new word called rhythm. Okay? So we'll get to that in just a second. So let's look at this example. My name is John. I love to go to school. Okay? What we're looking for right now is we're looking for 5 pairs of syllables. So we want to put this line into 5 pairs. If you counted this, by the way, you would have seen that there are exactly 10 syllables. So let's put this into what we call meter. Okay? So every two syllables, this is what we do. My name, that's 2. We would draw a line. Is John, that's 2. I love, that's 2. To go, that's 2. To school. So when we look at this, what we see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs of syllables. 2 times 5 equals 10. Okay? So if you look at this line down here from Sonnet 18, shall I compare thee to a some. Now it's important to remember that a word like summer might be split in half like it is here. So summer, the 2 syllables, actually become a part of the 4th and the 5th iamb. Okay? So what we've just done by dividing these into these pairs is we've done what's called meter. All right? Now, that still is not exactly what iambic pentameter is, because iambic pentameter also incorporates this word called rhythm. If we go back and we look at the definition of rhythm, what we're going to see is that rhythm refers to a pattern of how the syllables are being stressed or unstressed. Every word in the English language has syllables in it, and those syllables are either stressed or unstressed. So water, for example, 2 syllables, is actually a stressed, unstressed sound. Okay? Now, that's really difficult to understand, and sometimes it's really difficult to figure out, is it unstressed, is it stressed when we say it? But here's what we want to know. We want to know that Shakespeare uses a very specific rhythm. And his rhythm in iambic pentameter is always going to be what's called an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Okay? So when we look at the word, my name is John, I love to go to school, what we see is that this is the unstressed syllable, so I'm going to use a U, and this is the stressed syllable, so I'm going to use that backslash. I call it the backslash karate chop. Each pair, each iamb, follows this same rhythm. So the rhythm or the pattern of rhythm in a Shakespearean sonnet using iambic pentameter is unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Okay? The same thing then down here. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Unstressed, stressed. This is called the rhythm. So when we take a look at a final line like thou art more lovely and more temperate, we want to first start by splitting the syllables, or doing what I call finding the iambs. And again, thou art, more love, li and, more temperate, 5. 5 times 2 equals 10. Next, we want to find the rhythm. Thou art more lovely and more temperate. So remember, a Shakespearean iambic pentameter sonnet is always going to have that rhythm, unstressed followed by stressed. Okay? What we've done here by adding these syllable marks is we've actually done what is called scansion. So scansion is labeling and diagramming the rhythm and the meter, and in particular, these stressed and unstressed syllable marks. Okay? So when we take a look at a line of verse, just to review, it's a line of poetry that can be divided into 5 pairs. That's called meter. So my name. And then we have what's called rhythm. And the rhythm of iambic pentameter is always going to be an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Okay? So we're just using a couple of these examples right here to break down how to do this first part. And again, what we're doing is called scansion. So when we get done with a line of poetry and it looks like this, that's called scansion. And that's something we're going to ask you to do for your Palmer's Sonnet assignment. So you'll want to check out the next video on how to do that. We'll take a look at Sonnet 18 first, and then we'll start to break down a couple lines for the Palmer's Sonnet. Again, if you have any questions, come and see me. Sorry, you can't do that. Shoot me an email, schedule a Zoom, and we can go from there. All right? Hopefully this helps. Make sure you check out the second video, which will show you how to label and diagram the iambic pentameter using scansion for Sonnet 18 and a part of the Palmer Sonnet. Thanks.